Hello everybody, my name is Colin, and today we're going to be talking about a topic that you guys may or may not know about. Now, summer's right around the corner, and you guys know what that means. It means that people are trying anything and everything to get that summer beach body. They may be doing things like exercising or dieting or cutting all the sugary food and drinks out of their diet. Now, instead of those sugary food and drinks, people may be switching to all those zero-calorie, no-sugar products, which may taste a lot like the normal foods, but without all the extra sugar or calories. Now, you may be asking yourselves, how is this possible, and does this actually work? Well, it's possible because of these compounds called artificial sweeteners, which is what my video is about today. No, we are not talking about that adorable little sweet from those Diet Dr. Pepper commercials. We're actually going to be talking about what makes that Diet Dr. Pepper, quote-unquote, the sweet one, and so irresistible. So you guys may be wondering, what exactly is an artificial sweetener? Well, an artificial or non-nutritive sweetener is a synthetic compound that is often used in the place of sugar. These compounds often carry 0 calories and are many times sweeter than sugar, which is why they are commonly used in diet food and drinks. So if we take a look at the amount of energy in sugar, you're going to find that for every 1 gram of sugar, there are 4 calories. Now let's take a look at this bottle of Coca-Cola. There are 39 grams of sugar in just 1 serving of Coke, which translates to about 160 calories per serving, which is a lot. But looking at this bottle of Diet Pepsi, you'll see that there are 0 calories total in this whole bottle and 0 grams of sugar. This is due to 2 compounds called aspartame and sulfame potassium, which are artificial sweeteners, and I'll go over those in a little bit more detail in a second. Now, I know what you guys are probably thinking. You guys are probably saying to yourselves, wow, I drink so much soda. If I switch to diet, then I can save so many calories. But to that, I would say, hold on, partner, not so fast. You guys would be surprised about the effects of artificial sweeteners compared to sugar. But before I talk about this, I want to talk a little bit about the 5 different artificial sweeteners that are approved for use by the FDA today. Now that we've learned the fundamental difference between artificial sweeteners and sugars, it's time to dive into the 5 different types of artificial sweeteners that are approved by the FDA for use today. The first artificial sweetener I'm going to talk about is called saccharin, which was discovered in 1879 by Konstantin Fallberg, who was working with coal tar in the lab. When he accidentally spilled some chemicals, he noticed a sweet taste on his finger. He traced that sweet taste back to saccharin. Ever since the early 1900s, this chemical has been used as an artificial sweetener and is about 300 times sweeter than sugar is, and it goes under the brand name Sweet and Low. The next and probably most famous artificial sweetener out there is aspartame, which was discovered in 1965 by G.D. Searle. Searle was working on an anti-ulcer drug when he accidentally spilled some chemicals on his hand without noticing. He then licked his finger and also noticed a sweet taste on it. He traced that sweet taste back to the chemical aspartame, which is 200 times sweeter than sugar and is known as NutraSweet. Just 2 short years after aspartame was discovered, a scientist by the name of Karl Klaus discovered sulfame potassium, also by licking his finger after a spill. Sulfame potassium is sometimes used to decrease the bitter aftertaste of aspartame, and is 200 times sweeter than sugar, and branded under the name Sweet One. Another artificial sweetener, sucralose, was also discovered by accident, but this time a little bit differently than the last 3. In 1976, a British sugar company was looking for a way to use sucrose as a sugar intermediate, in collaboration with King's College. A graduate student from King's College misunderstood the word testing and thought they were asking for him to taste the compounds. This is how he found sucralose, which is 600 times sweeter than sugar and is found in the sugar substitute Splenda. The newest artificial sweetener is called neotame, and it was approved by the FDA in the early 2000s. Neotame is actually a modification of aspartame, which makes it many more times sweeter than aspartame is. Neotame is over 7,000 times sweeter than natural sugar is, so it is the strongest of all the artificial sweeteners available. Next up, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about what sugar does to your body, and then I'll go into what artificial sweeteners do to your body, and how they compare to each other. So what exactly happens when you eat sugar? Well, once you eat something with a lot of sugar, your taste buds pick up that sweet taste and send it as a signal to the brain. The brain then says, "Oh boy, I'm going to get some energy," while the pleasure center of the brain is also activated at this point. The brain then sends a signal to release the hormone insulin, which causes your cells to take in the newly absorbed glucose that is flowing in your blood. And boom, you have fuel to produce energy in your cells. Eating too much sugar is a problem, however, and with all the extra sugar in our soda and processed foods, it causes major health problems. Your body can't use all of that energy, so it stores the glucose as glycogen to use for later, which can cause weight gain. It can also influence cravings due to the activating of the pleasure center of your brain, and can cause even more sugar cravings. In addition, all that extra sugar causes cavities, high blood pressure, and even heart disease. It also leads to insulin resistance, which is the primary cause of type 2 diabetes. So after learning all that, you guys are still probably thinking of switching from Pepsi to Diet Pepsi, right? The artificial sweeteners in Diet Pepsi can't be that bad. I mean, there's no calories, no sugar, so none of those effects. Unfortunately, this may not be true, and that's what this next part of this video is going to be about. One effect artificial sweeteners may have is on your appetite. As we mentioned before, when you eat sugar, it sends a signal to your brain that tells you you are getting calories. There has been evidence that this does not happen when you eat artificial sweeteners, and that they can actually trick your body into feeling hungry or not full despite already eating. In one study, rats were either fed high sugar or saccharin flavored food, and then were given a sweet yogurt. The rats that were fed saccharin food ate more of the yogurt than the rats that were fed the high sugar food. This study used rats, but a similar effect could occur in other animals and humans, and cause overeating and even sugar cravings. So do artificial sweeteners affect our weight? Artificial sweeteners generally don't have calories because they cannot be processed in our gut, and therefore cannot be used for energy or nutrients. You might think that this would cause weight loss, but in a large meta-analysis, people who switched from sugar to artificial sweeteners lost on average only 0.8 kilograms, or less than 2 pounds. Unfortunately, we just aren't seeing that supposed weight loss effect by cutting out all of those calories. Theories of why this happens range from the previous topic of craving and eating more sugar to people thinking that they can have that piece of cake because they didn't consume as many calories. Whatever the reason is, switching to artificial sweeteners just does not make you lose a lot of weight. It was mentioned earlier that artificial sweeteners cannot be processed in the gut, which gives them the characteristic of having no calories. Many people thought that artificial sweeteners just pass through your gut when ingested, but there is evidence that suggests that artificial sweeteners can affect your gut microbiome. Your gut is full of helpful bacteria that help break down food, and disrupting the bacteria can have some major effects on your body. In one study, rats that were fed food that contained saccharin were shown to have had changes in their gut microbiome, and even showed symptoms of prediabetes, a condition of high blood sugar that does not yet qualify as type 2 diabetes. What's even more surprising is that scientists took gut bacteria from these rats and transferred them to germ-free rats that lived in a sterile environment. When they did, the germ-free rats also developed prediabetes. Because they lived in a sterile environment, the germ-free rats were not exposed to as many things that the other rats were. This gives further evidence that the artificial sweeteners were in fact causing the change in gut bacteria and the subsequent effects. Diabetes has come up a lot in this video, as it is a serious disease that can be the result of eating too much sugar. Diabetes mellitus is a metabolic disorder characterized by high blood sugar, and in the case of type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance. Type 2 diabetes is by far the most common form of the disease in the United States, and makes up 90% of the 29 million cases. Eating large amounts of sugar can cause your body to become resistant to insulin, which means that the cells are not able to take in the glucose that's in the blood. This increases blood sugar concentration and causes type 2 diabetes. It was mentioned previously that artificial sweeteners have been shown to cause prediabetes, but there is also a link to type 2 diabetes. An observational study of over 64,000 women showed that women who consumed a lot of artificial sweeteners were 21% more likely to develop type 2 diabetes than women who did not consume them. They even took into account other risk factors, such as obesity, in this study, but there was still a strong link between artificial sweeteners and diabetes. This is concerning because type 2 diabetes is a preventable disease that can cause very serious complications, such as cardiovascular disease, kidney failure, and even blindness. Artificial sweeteners have been around for a while now, and the effects of their consumption are still being studied today. Scientists at least know that these compounds do not cause cancer. Thanks to a bunch of studies in the 70s, scientists found no link between artificial sweeteners and cancer. That's pretty much most of what we do know about them, however. More studies are needed to figure out what these effects could be. Many of the studies that we talked about today were performed on lab rats, and not humans. Unfortunately, due to ethical concerns, many of these tests were not able to be performed on humans, and may never will be. So for now, we're going to have to rely on these animal tests and observational studies to come up with data. There is one thing that is apparent, however, and it's that artificial sweeteners are not a secret weapon in the struggle between your sweet tooth and your desire to shed a few pounds. You're better off cutting out both artificial sweeteners and sugar if you want to live a healthy lifestyle. So if you have the choice between Dr. Pepper and Diet Dr. Pepper, I would go for water instead. Sorry, Lil Sweet, you may be the sweet one, but you're not the healthy one.